welcome to the Mostly Mindful Show. I'm Arja.
And I'm Ananya. And today we're going to be talking to you about diets, nutrition, and how to simplify eating healthier.
Okay, I think to start off with this, you can't not pick on what's trending the most right now when it comes to nutrition. I mean, there's always a trend that's going, and I'm sure you'll agree it's like keto, intermittent fasting, carnivore diet, or whatever it is, every 2-3 months. But hot topic right now is the Ozempic diet or pill or injection, whatever it is. Quick thoughts on it.
Okay, so you're totally right. Every month, it seems like every week or even every day, there's a new trend and there's a new diet. Currently, it's Ozempic. And Arja and I were just discussing how we hate the word diet because it implies that it's temporary.
Absolutely.
And what happens when you go off it?
Yeah, so I think like the way I literally approach the word diet, even when I'm talking to a client or anyone, is diet, I think just like, in your mind comes with a fixed start date and an end date. Like if anyone approaches you, they're like, can you give us this diet? Or can you give me a diet to lose XYZ amount of weight? It's because they're coming with this mindset, right? Of, okay, I'll do it for 1 month or like 2 months. And I think that to begin with is just messed up because your food cannot have a timeline. You're going to eat till pretty much the last day you're alive.
Yeah.
So instead, you have to look at food and just your approach to nutrition has to be, more nourishing, more wholesome and more sustainable. So I think that's pretty much why we hate the word diet.
Absolutely, because eating healthy has to be a lifestyle change. It can't just be a 1 or 2 month thing because then when you go off it, you're going to gain that weight back or then you see other negative repercussions of that. So instead of villainizing food and viewing it as your enemy, view it as your friend, view it as something that's going to give you nourishment and make sustainable changes that you can make to your everyday life.
Absolutely. And I just feel like also it's just like food in general has been like demonized, and that's why people are getting into like this entire fiasco of diets or Ozempic or whatever it is. I mean, I know we're talking about Ozempic so much because it's trending now. But actually what it does is, and I was talking to like a couple of my cousins who are doctors, right? People aren't taking the pill because it makes you feel nauseous and stuff. It has more side effects. So people are going for like the injection mode of it. But actually, it's just a big hunger suppressant. So it's completely going to just eradicate that feeling of you feeling hungry and like you actually don't have an appetite left. Which on the other hand, and like, people are using this as a quick means for fat loss, which is another part of just like fad diets and stuff. I don't understand why people look for like short-term fixes. And that's when you approach a diet. So they go hand in hand, even when it's like intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've had a lot of this as well. We'll do it for 2 months or we'll do it for 3 months. And then as soon as you stop, you gain weight. So the same thing with the Ozempic, people are taking that injection. It's removing like your hunger, feeling completely. So you're not eating. Obviously, you're losing weight. But you're not realizing the repercussions you're doing to your overall health with that.
Exactly. And just a disclaimer that Ozempic can actually be very beneficial for people who are diabetic or suffering with other...
And your doctors like prescribed it.
Exactly. But the issue here is when people are misusing it or just using it for weight loss when they don't really have to lose that weight to begin with. Or resort to this extreme measure to lose.
Yeah, I think it's like an extreme measure and people just look at it as a quick fix as opposed to anything else because, you've seen it. And someone must have tried it. And I know you were reading a couple of clinical trials on the fad and like diet industry also.
Absolutely. And what everyone is finding is that once you go off Ozempic, that weight does come back on.
Yeah.
So then what do? Are you going to be on it for the rest of your life? Or will you start then making lifestyle changes that could then lead to longer lasting outcomes and benefits?
Yeah. And I think that's how you should not just you and I, but anyone and everyone should just have a more holistic, open and enjoyable approach to, food and nutrition in general. Something that you look forward to, something that's sustainable, something that actually brings a smile to your face when you look at food and not like, oh my God, if I eat this, I'll gain weight.
I know. And I find it so frustrating when people think that healthy eating is boring or something that you're forced to do because actually it can be some of the most delicious food out there.
Absolutely.
That are loaded with nutrients, good fats. There's so many healthy ways that you can make it delicious.
I feel like we can also make a recipe book for people.
Absolutely, I know. But Aja, what are some of your tips on how to make healthy eating simpler?
Okay, good question. My first tip, and I think like because it's also the most researched, and like the most easy to implement, is like just following the 80-20 rule when it comes to nutrition. So just to explain in layman terms what that is 80% of what you're eating is essentially whole foods and nourishing foods, and 20% is whatever you feel like eating, like a craving. And again, I'm not going to categorize any of this as good or bad, but we can just say like, something that feeds your body and something that feeds your soul. It could be an ice cream and a brownie that you're craving. That's why you're eating that. And that's totally okay. Like, we're all humans at the end of the day. And I think people forget that when they go on these extreme diets and, cutting out sugar, cutting out carbs, and like, one entire food group goes. And that again goes back to food not being sustainable, right? Like your day to day meals. So I think when you look at 80-20, I look at it on a day-to-day basis as opposed to like, even a monthly basis. I feel like when in a day, your 4 meals, 5 meals, whatever you're having, right? If 80% of that is whole nourishing food, you're going to feel so satiated that you actually don't crave a lot of the other things. And I think this is something we'll dig deeper on another episode, how like, if you hit hit your macros, you don't crave for the quote unquote junk and like processed foods. But if 80% of your day is looking completely, nourishing, that 20% is not going to make or break any progress, that you're trying to achieve or working towards. Number one.
Not to deprive yourself.
Absolutely. And I feel like, just to build on the depriving part was my other point with the 80-20 on a daily basis is when you're giving yourself that leeway of 20% of eating whatever you feel like eating on that day, that automatically just removes, that entire circle of binging and stuff. Because, like today I feel like eating ice cream and I can be like, dude, do you want to go for ice cream at night?
Yeah.
We've been good all day, eaten what we were supposed to eat. And the one ice cream is not ruining it. Plus, I was craving it. We had it, it's fine. Instead of me waiting for a Sunday and be like, oh, Sunday is my cheat day.
And then you're going to binge on.
Exactly. And you're not realizing that one day of like hogging on all those calories of just like processed food is not going to get you to the results you want, right? Because the way your body works is like a weekly or a monthly caloric balance. It's not like, oh, Monday I'm good, Tuesday I'm bad. And like, it's not a daily thing. It's just an overall longevity thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yesterday I met someone who said for 3 weeks she didn't eat any sugar.
Oh my God.
And the 4th week she just couldn't stop eating sugar. And she probably ate way more sugar in that 4th week than she would have if she had eaten sugar during those 3 weeks, just a normal amount.
Yeah,
so which is this restriction that then makes you binge. It's very much a psychological thing.
Yeah, precisely. Okay, back at you, because I know you have a very interesting ideology when it comes to food and making your plate and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What's like your number one thing that you focus on when it comes to nourishment and like meal planning in general for each meal or each week?
So what I like to so I follow a method that I like to call the plate method.
Ooh.
Your plate is basically a circle, and I believe in dividing it into different quarters to explain what needs to go onto your plate.
Okay, and you do this for all meals?
Yes, I recommend it as a general guideline for all your meals, and I'll explain how it's done. So half your plate, which is 2 quarters, is what I suggest should be vegetables.
Okay.
And I suggest having more than 2 kinds and different colors of veggies. So this is, of course, eating the rainbow, which means that getting, let's say, some red, orange, yellow, and green veggies. In green, you have your leafy greens like spinach, kale.
Yeah.
In yellow, you could have yellow peppers. Exactly. Orange, there's carrots.
Yeah.
Red, again, capsicum.
Yeah.
And strawberries.
Yeah, tomatoes.
Tomatoes, exactly. So you can get super creative. And now the reason that I suggest getting all these different colors and different kinds of veggies is then you also get a variety of different nutrients into your body, which of course then benefit all your bodily functions, including your gut. So
Yeah.
what it does in your gut is then it basically nourishes your gut microbiome and makes it healthier by having a whole host of different nutrients in there.
Makes sense.
So that's half your plate. That's
Okay.
3/4 taken care of. So that's all your different veggies. So that's all your different veggies. This could work for Indian food as well as Western foods.
Yeah.
In Indian, it could be your Indian style sabzis. For Western, it could be grilled veggies or
Yeah.
however you like to cook them.
Absolutely.
Then, in addition to this, another quarter would basically be your protein.
Okay, yeah.
Protein can be, if you're vegetarian, there's tofu, paneer. If you're non-vegetarian, you can have chicken, fish, whatever meat you
Yeah.
enjoy eating. And it can again be cooked in either Indian, Western, or any style.
Yeah,
that you
any
like.
cuisine. Basically,
Exactly.
your plate's looking like that.
Exactly.
And then there's 1/4 of your plate left.
Yes, that is basically your carb.
Okay.
I recommend whole grains
Hmm.
or even red rice, brown rice,
Yeah.
white rice, whatever you like.
Yeah.
A sourdough toast.
Yeah. So any carb source is also
Exactly.
part of the plate.
Yeah, because carbs are actually important. for
Yeah,
us
I
to
think honestly,
consume.
carbs are like your energy source. So whoever's going off
Absolutely.
carbs or low carbs,
Yeah.
you're crashing like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock during the days because you're depriving yourself of the carbs.
And you're going to be hungry later. So you
Yeah.
want to essentially be satisfied at this meal so that you're not
Yeah.
going to then just be picking on unhealthy things through the day.
Yeah.
So that's your carb. It could
Yeah.
also be potatoes, sweet potatoes, totally up to
Absolutely.
you.
Personal preference.
Exactly. So that's 4 quarters. So
Yeah.
that's your circle complete. And on top of that, I always recommend adding some good fat.
Fats, yeah.
So this can be something like ghee if you're
Yeah.
having Indian food, or olive oil.
In your dressings. Yeah.
Exactly. Or then even nuts and seeds. You
Yeah.
can just sprinkle it on top.
Yeah.
Avocado is a great one.
Yeah, when it's in season.
Yeah, Greek yogurt. So you
Yeah.
can really get creative, and I suggest applying this to all your meals. So you can do it
Yeah.
for lunch, dinner, and even breakfast.
Breakfast, yeah.
And it can look like something totally different at each meal, so you never get bored of this method.
Yeah.
And what this also does is that it really satisfies you. You're
It
getting
does.
your requirements of protein, nutrients, all of that, and you're feeling full and happy after eating it.
Yeah.
So then it prevents you again from going into things like binging because you're feeling hungry.
Yeah, or an energy crash again. Because I think
Exactly.
the way you described the plate is basically looking after all macro and micronutrients that, one should have. And I also just feel like, or building on the plate, I don't know why, maybe it's just like a stigma people have that this is so complicated, but the way you made it sound, it's actually not. So
It's not. Yeah.
even if you have to do it for Indian meals, and I feel like it's more like Indians who think, Indian food doesn't let you balance this out. I feel like that's really not true because, your veggies, whatever sabjis being made at home is one compartment. Your roti or rice is the carb. Your dal can be a combination of, your protein and fats because like that's like, I think the second biggest thing you hear, I heard as a nutritionist especially is, oh, but I'm having 2 katoris of dal, that's enough protein. Like, no, that's not enough protein.
Yeah.
And
There is
then,
misconception.
yeah, and like with the veggies, you're getting your color on the plate, and then you have your side of either of the protein sources, right? If it's
Yeah.
vegetarian, paneer, tofu, like you said, tempeh is also pretty good. Non-vegetarians have like all the options.
For sure. And this method has actually been recommended by so many nutritionists because it works.
It does, and I feel like it keeps you so satiated. And like I also feel like back in the day, like our grandparents and great-grandparents, this is how they ate.
It is.
That's why they, honestly, like my grandmom's 90, she barely has any health concerns as such when it comes to like, stomach and food and stuff. And it's because they've grown up eating like this. Like we've complicated our lives and nutrition with just getting in so many fats. And if you just go back to the roots of eating a balanced plate, which is like, again, modernized, we can say it as like the plate method or the rainbow method, but that's, in layman terms, that's what people did, right? They had their sabji, they had their dal, they had their roti, and they would always have dahi at the end because like it's also good to soothe your stomach and it's also good for digestion.
For sure.
So
our ancestors definitely knew what they were doing. And
without any of this research.
Exactly. So anytime you're confused, just think, what would my grandparents have done?
Yeah.
Would they have taken Ozempic?
Probably not.
Unless, of course, you have a health condition that requires
Yeah, of course. Like,
it.
I don't want anyone to think we're shitting on it because we're not. It's just like, because it's become a trend.
It's being abused, right?
Yeah. Like, so many people just looking at it as fat loss. But I think coming back to just the trend side, I think another thing that influences people when it comes to nutrition in like the newer generation, including all of us as well, is like all these trends we see on social media of, influencers or even some nutritionists. I don't think too many do, but whatever. There's just like a plethora of people that you will see online who are posting these what I eat in a day videos.
Yeah.
And I think that's what also builds on the anxiety in someone else on what you should be eating. And I know we were both discussing this on a walk, how we would like not be able to post that because we don't eat the same food every day.
No, I don't think there's a single day where I eat the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Exactly. So, when you're posting something like that on social media, I would say either the person posting it, put it with a disclaimer, or, if you're watching it, just watch it with a disclaimer that this is just an example of what your meals could look like. Like, I like watching some of them sometimes.
Inspiration for recipes.
Yeah, like you might get an idea that, I haven't had like a burger in a while and I can make it at home like this or whatever. Like, it can be built on ideas. But what people tend to do is you just look at, XYZ is eating like this and so should I be eating like this. I'm just going to mimic it.
But no, that doesn't really, because everybody's requirements are different. Even your protein intake, your requirement is probably different than that person. What kind of workout are you doing? Are you guys doing the same kind of energy exertion every day?
Yeah. And I think your diet also basically, it varies from person to person because it's directly related to your body weight, right?
Exactly.
When you talk about something as basic as maintenance calories and calorie deficit, which are like phrases everyone knows of now, it's different for every single person because that's measured by your height and weight and age and activity level. So watching someone else's what I eat in a day is giving you nothing, honestly, except ideas, I think, of what you can eat and, find those inspo, save those posts, try it all because, people make it look aesthetic.
Exactly. And I find that it's actually a bit unhealthy because sometimes I've seen both extremes where people will show that they've barely eaten anything all day.
Yeah, you're right,
and
actually.
I wonder how is that sustainable? I mean, that's not healthy. Or then you'll see people posting that they've eaten so much in that day. But then you have to also consider things like
they're probably an athlete if you're eating like 4,000 calories.
So then they need to consume those calories as opposed to somebody who's sitting at a desk all day not getting that much movement. They actually need to consume far fewer calories. And so it can be quite toxic sometimes those videos because they're not really sustainable and they don't apply to everyone.
And I think which is why I think it should just be a disclaimer because again nothing wrong with it. But take it with a pinch of salt in the sense that if you're eating that if someone else is eating that doesn't mean you're eating the same thing. And like, again, it's like we're living in, a world where you're following influencers from everywhere. And it goes back to the same things also, like, following someone in America or in the Western world, they're getting different ingredients. The way they cook food is different. It's not the same as Indian food. So comparing is hard. And, it adds to stress again because you're psychologically just like hyping yourself up that, I have to eat like that. And then your stress is, adding to your weight loss and digestive issues.
Yeah, because when you're stressed, so that's why I always say that don't eat when you're stressed. Just make sure you calm down. Take a few deep breaths. Even if you're anxious about something, wait till you calm down a bit because what happens is that your cortisol levels rise and your body goes into that fight or flight state. And so your blood flow is going towards your brain and your heart and the other parts of your body and it's not focusing on your digestion. And so then that's what leads to things like bloating. You aren't able to digest your food properly and then that leads to other issues. So definitely don't be stressed when you eat and also just find what works for you. Because Aja, what works for you may not work for me and vice versa. Even both of us who lead pretty similar lifestyles. It's also just a personal preference in terms of the kind of flavors and
and what's sustainable for you and your household. Because I think that's another thing, right? We all live in, we're all living with families, not necessarily like living independently. You also have to see what's time efficient, what's grocery efficient. You're not going to be having like a separate kitchen for yourself and separate for the house.
And what do you like? taste of. That also makes such a difference. I mean, do you prefer Indian flavors? Do you prefer Western?
Yeah.
Japanese? Whatever it may be, finding what you really enjoy eating is the
Yeah.
most important thing, because you're going to be eating every day of your life.
Yeah, like that's how it's sustainable. I'm
Yeah.
actually also going to pick on something, because you just use the word bloating. I think that also really comes into just talking about nutrition, because again, so many people face bloating. And I was reading on this the other day, and a part of it comes linked to all these diets that people do. And I think a large part of bloating, is linked to people going on extreme diets. Because when you say, for example, because I was reading this very recently, I think just today when I was driving here, I was listening to this podcast on, the effects of bloating and how you can help it and stuff. And what caught my attention is, in also the hype of eat so much protein and blah, blah, blah. The protein is the key, which is key, I think. And, again, we'll dig deeper into it later. But also just, overdoing one macronutrient is actually the biggest cause of people feeling bloated, because you go into the cycle of, oh, I'm cutting down carbs, oh, I'm cutting off sugar. You might be cutting off A, but then that means you're eating more of B, which could be fiber, it could be carbs, it could be anything, right? You essentially, what people end up doing is, if you're cutting down one thing, they'll just load up with extra fiber, just have your salads and have your sabjis, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then A, you're not full and satiated, but actually you're feeling heavier and more bloated, is because your body can't suddenly digest, an overload of one component of macros. So that's what actually leads to bloating. And I feel like not too many people understand this.
Yeah.
And that leads back to why your balanced plate is a sustainable method, regardless of what cuisine you're eating, regardless of where you live in the world.
Yeah. So just catering it to your needs in terms of the flavors and what kind of veggies you're using and your protein type. But generally, as a method, it works great for most people.
Yeah.
But you're right that when you focus on one macro, then your body just isn't able to digest that properly. And that happens all the time with protein.
Yeah.
You see so many people who, after consuming a lot of protein, do feel really bloated.
Yeah.
We do have a special episode just protein, which will be coming to later. Definitely need a sustainable approach to building a balanced plate.
Yeah.
It includes all macros. And I feel we do have a tendency to villainize certain foods, carbs especially.
Yeah, I think carbs and sugar is always villainized.
Exactly. But we still need carbs. We need carbs to survive. They give us energy.
That is your energy source for the day, pretty much.
Yeah. So how to add them in while making it delicious, healthy, and also sustainable.
Yeah.
Just having a healthy approach to it is so important.
And I feel like just balancing your plate does solve that, and it makes it sustainable, right? Because like you said, in that method of a plate, you essentially are having everything. So it's divided into portions, which is fine. One is more than the other, sabji is more than the carbs, which is fine, because that's probably how your body will also respond to food, and that's what it needs.
Yeah.
But it's also not going into the deprived stage. And I think just going back to what we randomly picked on at the start to wrap this up is how our grandparents literally ate like that, and food was celebrated. Whereas now, and which is why we're even having this chat to start off the show, is diets and nutrition, is because now I feel like we demonize it by getting into, oh, I'm on this diet, oh, but I can't go out because, I have to lose weight and I'm doing this, so I'm not going to have a treat because I'm going to gain weight. There's so much noise and unnecessary narrative.
Toxic.
Yeah.
So toxic to view food as poison or there's something that's bad for you.
Yeah.
Instead, let's view it as a celebration and as a moment of joy and something to look forward to, because it really does nourish our bodies and it gives us life.
It does. And I feel like I was going to say that, to be honest, we're pretty much alive right now, however brutal that sounds, is because you have to eat. How they say, nourish to flourish. It is that the only reason you are literally still breathing is because you are feeding your body. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you are going to start collapsing. So, going extremes, going XYZ diet, or even cutting our food groups is not the way. It should just be, I enjoy my meal, I need it, but find your fit in it.
Yeah, find your fit. Don't deprive yourself of anything. Just try and live a healthy life when you can. And when you want to indulge, go ahead and indulge. But just make sure
Exactly.
it's not only indulgence. But
Yeah.
if you do consume things that you enjoy every day,
Yeah. You're
that
not
in
going to
itself-
indulge, I
and
feel.
that in itself is your everyday indulgence. It
Yeah,
can
that's
be
true.
a moment to indulge and enjoy.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be viewed as something that, oh, this is my boring diet lunch. Instead,
Yeah.
let it be a happy moment to fuel and nourish your body.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like I hope this helped you get a little idea of how you can balance your plate, how you should not go into extremes when it comes to your food and nutrition, and how honestly just use food as a celebration, use food as something you look forward to every single meal, and you will nourish to flourish to live a longer life.
Absolutely. We hope you liked our first episode. If you did, please subscribe, save, and follow, and let us know any feedback that you might have for us.